Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valery Lilov, and today we're going to be talking about tactics, but more importantly, I'd like to tell you about a fantastic training bundle that I came across recently. Now, this is going to be something you'd really love. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to take up examples from that package. In fact, I rarely start looking and studying videos myself, but something really incredible is that I've been actually going through this and I was able to learn so much. You see, for an international master like me, being able to learn much from a package, a training package, sounds like a strange thing, but I was. And so you have the opportunity to, in fact, set up and get that bundle, get that package anytime during this lecture. So this is going to be a very good one-time deal that will be just through this webinar. And while you're actually looking at that, what I'm going to be doing is I will show you the most incredible learning points that helped me to just improve my chess by studying those. I'm saying that, and I haven't said that for almost any other package I've been actually come across recently, because I just think these lectures are pretty good. So let me take you and walk you through certain very good examples from that. Just let me set up the first one. So I am going to take a second. It's going to take a second to get the first one opened. I'm not too good with technology, so just give me one moment. Okay, so, all right. Now, I'd like to show you a game that was played by the great Alexei Shirov versus Joel Benjamin. Now, this is being presented in one of the packages out there. So this is like like one of the training games. I cannot present it as good as the Grandmaster from the lecture bundle, but I believe you will learn as much from it as you can. So let's have a look and let's take a look and see what happened in that game. So Shirov was playing with the white pieces, and Grandmaster Joel Benjamin was actually playing as black. So this is basically the game. Now the game started with e4. Okay. So then we have the Sicilian. Now I'm not going to walk you through all the details of the opening or whatever, because that's not the point. See, again, we would like to talk solely about the tactics, because the training package I got most impressed on was about sacrifices, when do we do tactics, and essentially the whole 6-part volume is just about that. So I'd like to guide you through the methodology that I was able to learn from this, and perhaps you can learn as well. So let's talk about that. So knight f3, e6, we go quickly through the opening. This is the Sicilian defense. There isn't too much to speak of it. Like, there is knight c6, knight c3. Basically, black goes with a6, and then white plays along with bishop to the e2. So things are going okay. Black plays queen c7. White develops with bishop e3. So this is the beginning of the Sicilian. And the pulse and variation, as it's known in the Eastern countries, essentially black's trying with queen c7 in order to keep the flexibility, like the opportunity to develop his bishop. Also, he could think of a b5. While white is relying on something else, he relies on the faster development, which will eventually give him this quick opportunity to jump in and attack. So I'd say that it's pretty good. Then after the move of bishop to the e3, black did knight f6. There is a castling. And then there's bishop e7. So this is basically what's going on. Now, what happens after the bishop e7 is that white launches for the immediate f4 possibility. Now, let me answer one of the questions that come to mind first. Now, when anyone is watching this webinar, you're probably thinking, okay, now tell me one thing. When am I supposed to start attacking? When am I supposed to start looking for threats and for attacks and captures? Now, you see, this question cannot be answered objectively. Like, there is a position to do the tactic, there is the position to attack, and there are certain positions in which you just cannot do it, even if you feel like maybe you should. So there's really no objective answer. What I can give you is a tip. And that's just one of the many that Grandmasters actually from the tactical bundle give. But basically, the one thing I was able to learn and I understand is that we can only start attacking and begin those threats versus our opponent if we have enough command in the center and better coordination of the pieces. Now, I know that these two things sound like a cliche, but let me clarify. Better command in the center basically means when we have more pieces than our opponent has in the middle. So we have two pieces right here, and black doesn't. So it's super easy to find out, okay, we got center control. And what does it mean to have a good coordination? Well, make sure that the pieces support each other and they look towards more advanced places. Like, for example, those two pawns that can support each other and white is threatening to advance them. The bishop and the knight that are pretty good too, that knight being closer to the middle. So basically those few things are very important. So these are the two key ideas. Control the center and have a better coordination between your pieces. If you have these two, you have the base, so you can begin an attack. Now, when do the sacrifices go? Well, there is time. We'll go with the sacrifices idea later, but for now, let's just focus on this. Okay, so what happens after the move? Okay, the last move is f4, is that black plays d6. So what is white supposed to do right now? This is a good question, actually. So let's talk about that. You know, the way this whole thing looks like, I mean, white's pretty strong in the middle, and it looks like he's got some space. But how do we make things happen? I mean, how do we get to attack or threaten, or probably should we play f5 or e5? I'm going to give you a chance to think about it because this is a pretty good position. So take a second and think about what you would do. So what should white do now? King h1. I like the idea. I really like the suggestion of bringing the king right down. So we could set this up and then, okay, we could probably prepare for g4. But you know what? I don't like it. And let me explain why I don't like it. It's not so much of a problem that this move is bad, but it is an unnecessary move that just doesn't prepare or pose any problems against our opponent. Now, what is the secret of attacking? Preparation. But I'm talking about very concrete preparation. You see, in the Tactic and Sacrifices Domination Bundle, one of the things that you will learn is that preparing takes one or two moves that will help your pieces to get on the most optimal positions, from where later on you could figure out how they attack or how they threaten. So what white did was the move of queen e1. It was a super good move. I mean, what's the real deal about that move? Well, the real deal, in my opinion, is that the queen is now going a lot better. I mean, imagine just how good it will stand just being there. I mean, really, just being on the g3. Also, the other pretty cool idea here is that we can attack against the g7. And then our queen can help with anything, whether it will be f5 or e5 or just a threat there. So it's a good start, that's for sure. Okay, this looks good. So black castles. I mean, still nothing special has happened. So white's moving the queen on g3. There's the exchange. And okay, so here, over here, white just did bishop takes d and then black plays b5. Obviously, the opponent isn't going to wait for us, so he's going to try some counterplay. He's going for b4. He'd like to challenge the knight. So what do we do? I'd like you to think very carefully because this is the first critical position that we have. So what do we do right now? So let's see. I would like to hear your suggestion, but don't just bring them right away. I'd like to hear a little bit of thinking and a little logic. Just okay, a3 is a fine move. We can take out the b4, not a problem. But it's still once again one of these passive type of moves. Now, can we do the move of e5? Well, yeah, that looks like a little bit of a more active idea. Okay, let's see if you have any other suggestions. e5, bishop d3, I get as an idea. Oh, okay. Anyone else? Or maybe you can provide some explanation of why you want those moves. That way I can give you some feedback. You see, this is going to be really cool. So is f5 a good idea? Well, certainly we can try that. Bishop f. Wow, a lot of moves. So I believe that most of the moves like bishop d3 and bishop f3 could be played or they may not be. Either way, they just wouldn't make too much difference. But what about e5? Now, one thing I can tell you is that in these positions, you want to start with the move that's faster and stronger, more forcing. At least start calculating it. Don't play it, just start calculating it. Because if it works, yeah, you're going to seize the initiative and you're going to start making a lot of problems. If it doesn't, that's okay. At least you will gain some space. However, keep in mind that this also changes the position. A lot of these forcing moves contain a risk, and the risk isn't so much that you lose material, but you change the structure. And when the position changes, when the structure changes, there's some weaknesses that happen. Like imagine after e5, if he takes it, then we take back with our pawn. And there could be a move like bishop c5, for instance, I'm saying. And I don't really like the fact that he'll exchange all our good pieces, and suddenly our attack is more or less gone. I mean, okay, we still have our queen around, and it's not that bad, I suppose, but I don't think that this is what we're really prepared to do. So let's hear any other suggestions. Let's hear some logic. I don't want you to just throw in moves. Tell me why you think this is good. Bishop takes f6, definitely not. We don't want to trade off that bishop. That's just not good. It's a pretty strong bishop, so giving it away for the knight isn't going to do something too much. e5 we talked about, it's too fast. It just wouldn't do much given that black has bishop c5 available. Now, while you're thinking about that, I would like you to provide some logic. And let me tell you, there's this great deal, like this course that I was telling you about with 6 volume on, it's actually a 6 volume on the tactics and sacrifices domination. It speaks a lot about preparation and control and how we can do it in practical circumstances. So basically you can get it in like 50% discount right now during this webinar. And I believe it's in the link of the description. So I believe that's where it's put, but I think it's a really, really big deal because it's high quality content presented by a grandmaster, by really strong people and good teachers. And this is just one of the examples out there that I got most impressed from what I'm showing you. I'm trying to pick up some ideas from there and what I've learned, and hopefully you guys like what I have to what is in there, because this is just this beginning. The game is just starting. It was an incredible game, an incredible video. So anyway, let's see what you've got as suggestions. Okay, b4, rook a to the d1. Okay, I don't like the move rook d1, not so much because it's bad, but because of black's b4. You see, I'm going to tell you there are only 2 ways to do it. You either force the position, if you're ready, if you feel like this forcing move is going to give you something, or if you don't, you make a little preparatory, if possible, prophylactic type of move. Similar to that, why just played a3. He really, I mean, this is the first suggestion that I got, and you were probably thinking, okay, Valerie, this is too passive, right? No, this deals with the problem right away, which helps us to maintain a strong position in the center, good pieces, and that's the best. You know how often I've been asked, what is the key about the attack? And something I learned from that bundle that I was telling you about is that the key thing about attacking is the possibility to maintain strong coordination between your pieces, strong control, so you don't risk your position. The longer your pressure, your attack can maintain steam, the stronger and more powerful it's going to be, because you may not have 1 or 2 sacrifices going right away, but in 2 or 3 moves, they will happen. You just have to keep your position strong enough to wait until that happens. So we do a3. And let's see what goes next, because this is getting very interesting. Black plays bishop b7. Then, of course, white moves the king out of the danger. Now, that's a nice move, which was suggested by one of you before, to move that king. So no checks or things can happen. So black played bishop c6. And one more question for you guys. We have a nice challenge on g7 and a good bishop. So what do you say next? What's next? What do we do now? Do we bring some other pieces? Do we open with e5? What do you think? What do you think? Bishop f3, I'll have a discover detected the rook, and maybe, but you know the problem with bishop f3, it locks down the rook. It just isn't too good. No, not really. We don't want that. Anything else? Are we ready for e5 now? Now, why did black play bishop c6? I guess he just wanted to set the queen and the bishop on that diagonal. Not that it will be too perfect. Yes, the rooks have to play, of course. Very good idea. Now, rook d1 was nice, but you know what? White got the possibility to play rook e1. There is time. What you have to learn about attacking is that time is relative. See, this is a very important concept. Now, time is relative because if you believe the opponent has the ability to challenge or attack you or threaten you, then you have to act quickly. But unless you see some concrete reasons that force you, that push you to hurry, there's no need for you to rush. Take the time to gain more pieces, to get more momentum, and you will break through and open when the time's right, when the position is ready. That's exactly what white did right now. See, these are practical suggestions that you want to learn whenever you're attacking. So it may seem like a very simple and boring move, rook d1, but it is the key. You'll see that how this rook is the key to what white achieves next. Let me show you. So rook d1 happened. Rook e1, sorry. Queen b7. There's bishop d3 that white is setting up to do. And now black plays b4. So what is white supposed to do now? I mean, seriously, black is going for a counterattack. He would like, if we exchange, he'd like to take back with the queen, hit here, attack there, and just cause lots of problems. I mean, it really makes sense to do something while white is preparing his own play on the other area. So what do you do now? Why not rook a to the d1? Because you see, rook a d1 would have connected to a rather locked file. So if we put it on the e1, at least it backs up the e pawn, and it's better. So anyway, black played b4. What do you do? Now, this is a very important decision. I want to make you guys more engaged into what's going on the board. Now, while you're thinking, once again, I wanted to tell you. So, click the link on the box below the stream, and you get a massive 50% off the 6 volume and Tactics and Sacrifices Domination bundle. It's really going to teach you these small and yet very significant things that grandmasters use to calculate and rapidly progress their attacks. I am personally very impressed of that bundle. That's why I'm promoting it in a way. So take a look at that. It's pretty cool. It's really, really good. Now, let's come back to the game and let's talk about what is white supposed to do now. Knight d5. Okay, knight d5. Let's talk about it. Is it good? You see, everybody loves cool moves. I call these the shiny moves. You see, this looks like a really good idea. But you know what? Whenever you think of a sacrifice, ask yourself how much it will give you. Or you know what? Even more importantly, what's the follow-up? So if we just take there and then black captures, yes, it feels good. But I like to make the similarity of such a jump or such a sacrifice similar to what happens when you jump from a very high place. It feels good right at the moment. But if you haven't taken the right preparations, if you haven't calculated the jump, then it's not going to feel that good when you hit the ground. So that's the same sort of thing here. We get the 2 bishops and the queen, and it's okay, but that's pretty much it. Doesn't do anything. So let's just do something else. Shall we take? Nope. If we take, you'll hit the bishop and the pawn. So what we need to do is just ignore it. Remember, ignoring your opponent may be a good idea because you're not going to help him to speed up the plan, and yet you're going to keep your pieces on the line so they can pressure the opponent. So after knight d1, things look good. Black plays g6, and now white is starting to set up more pieces directly on the king's side with knight f2. He basically builds up his attack. You know what a lot of people think when they see such moves? They say, this is just grandmaster stuff. I want to be able to attack my opponent quickly, and in my games, people probably attack me a lot faster. The truth is, in most beginner intermediate players' games, the attacks work faster because people blunder. But again, we're talking about what happens if people do not blunder against you, if you don't blunder against them. To avoid blunders, all you have to do is just practice on tactics. But if you want to improve your planning, if you want to improve your level of play, you need to learn strategies, not just how to avoid blundering, but how to prepare your attack and make it strong enough so when you begin, it really works. So, do you have time to regroup? Remember, time is relative. This means the pacing depends on what he can do. He can't do nothing. So, I guess we've got the opportunity to step up and do what we got to do. And that is gain momentum on the king side. Simple as that. And you know, black didn't know what to do. I mean, really, what is he going to do? There is a threat of queen h3, possibly with queen h6. There's knight g4, there's f5, and everything will come very shortly. So black just, see, people get impatient. So black got impatient. He played knight h5. He broke the rule. Don't play on the side of the board where the opponent's going. He wanted to stop white, but in fact, he made things go even faster. So there's queen e3, and now black actually saw a combination. So he saw the combination of taking here and then pushing up with e5. And, well, that wasn't expected, was it? I mean, there's this nice attack against the queen and the bishop, and looks like we'll probably lose one of them. Most likely the black dark bishop is going to come in time. So we have a situation here. So what do? I mean, we slip. That often happens in our games. So does anyone have a suggestion of what white should do? You know, what's so good about this bundle that I was telling you about is that it gives pretty good answers to practical questions. Like, what happens when things just go hard? Like, what goes when we don't have the ability to control the attack or the challenges? And this is something very valuable, because if you have the opportunity to know what things may happen and how you can approach to handling them, that's really a big deal. Now, one of you recommended a pretty cool move, and that's the move that handles the problem, knight g4. How can he possibly attack all of our army with just 2 pawns? I mean, can you imagine the logic in that? Like, he has 1 pawn attacking against 6 of our pieces. I didn't count well. 6 of our pieces versus 1 pawn. I mean, okay, there is this certain, you know, David versus Goliath type of situation in chess, but that's very rare, and it's an exception. In this case, white is not even afraid of his queen because there's knight h6 checkmate. And yeah, and so there's a mate. So knight g4, like Shirov knew very well that this whole thing is going to really backfire at black. So eventually, in case of the take, we could see there's knight h6 coming down. So next move, white would take f7. And then there is queen h6 plus bishop c4 and a lot of stuff going on that area. So this is scary. And, well, I mean, it is scary. It is what it is. Black has problems, and they're likely going to be even bigger in the next moves. So knight g4, black tries f6. He can't allow that pawn to get taken. And then now white plays bishop c4 check, forcing the black king to go to h8. Surely this doesn't work. So h8. And, okay, what do we do now? Do we retreat the queen and we agree that this bishop will be lost? I mean, probably retreat wouldn't be that bad. After all, white still has a very good grip and amount of pieces on that area. But what would you like to do? We have a good set of pieces. Nice possibilities on the king side and possibly a good pressure. But how do we keep that momentum? Strong bishops, good queen, a nice looking knight, and the fact that the black king is still in a pretty limited position. Knight takes d5, I got as a suggestion. You know what? Perfect. This is the way. Again, he's not in condition to fight all those pieces with just those few pawns inside the position. After d takes d, white plays queen takes d. And now I hope this helps you understand my initial impression of the training bundle that I mentioned is how good coordination is. You see, coordination is when the pieces are really working together. These moves would never have been even a possibility if it wasn't for white having these pieces to work together. See, because they work together, all of that is available. There is a check that we can make. Then there's going to be rook takes f6 that is pretty amazing. And then black just can't run. I mean, if you look at this, there is like king g7, but then there's rook h7. It's probably this move. And then, I mean, so many things can happen. Like, I believe rook e3 works right now at rook h3. And, you know, there's just, I mean, okay, if the minimum is that we can play bishop f6 and take that bishop and get enough compensation, but I think there's a checkmate going around. So it's just, you know, or probably take the c6 bishop. It's too big. I mean, black couldn't allow that to happen. So he didn't take it. Actually, it was a kind of incredible. Black really did not want to take did not want to allow all this attack to happen. So he just plays with the move of king g7. And now I'm going to ask you a strange question. What do you do to continue the attack? Really, I mean, the attack is still going, but he didn't take the queen. He's not going to end up losing. He wants to continue fighting, and that's why he doesn't accept the sacrifice. So what do we do to keep the pressure, to keep the tension on? Queens is good. Bishops are great. Rook is powerful. Black's king is bad, and his whole preparation is completely down. So this is a good stuff. This is a really, really good job right now. How do we make things work? Okay, take a moment to think about it. I'd like to give you an opportunity to think and give me your suggestions. And like, consider that the tactical approach is not the only way how you can make things up. By the way, once again, I'd like to tell you about this very special offer that is just during this webinar today. It's like, if you can click on the link on the box below this stream, you can get a massive 50% of the 6-volume fantastic tactics and sacrifices bundle. It will teach you all these little things that you need to know in order to make your calculation and attack work well, really well. And I just loved it. I mean, myself, I'm not a great fan of watching videos, but this one specifically, it made a huge impression on me as a trainer and as a player as well. So let's see what you've got a suggestion. Queen g5 or queen e6. Do we have any of these moves? Actually, not really. Queen e6 is a good move, but then this queen can be attacked. Most likely black could do something of queen d7. So you know what Shirov did? He just played queen f4. I mean, this is a move a lot of people would not understand. This is a move that the first question that comes to you is like, really, do I have to retreat? It looks so good so far. I mean, I didn't make any retreating moves so far. Why would I have to retreat? And you have to understand that above all things like coordination, center, and all the things we talked about since the beginning of this lecture, there's one thing that stands out as the key to leading up a successful attack from beginning to finish, and that is the pressure. Now, let me explain to you what I mean, the way I understood it from the Grandmaster and the fantastic training bundle. In my opinion, pressure, at least the way I see it, is the ability to hold our opponent backward, defending and being on the back foot for the most of the time, while we can keep our pieces strong and controlling. And this will give us the time to figure out what tactics or sacrifice we can make in the long run. So even if they don't work, we don't risk, we don't push the position too much. That's what I believe Shirov wanted to do. After queen f4, he didn't want to risk. He knew he has the pressure. He knew black was in trouble. So let him stay. Okay? Let him stay. Being in a winning position really needs you to go slow. Unless you see the winning method and you're sure of it, keep the tension. Do not hurry. That's what White wanted, and he was able to do it beautifully. Most people get impatient. Most people say, you know what, Valerie, I have got to just break through. I can't stand not being able to win here. And I tell them, you see, the fact you're stronger does not mean you're winning. There is a huge difference between being stronger, having an advantage, and winning. Winning only goes at the end, and it could be a long time before you win. So don't think you can do it quickly. Take your time, enjoy your position, and you know what I say? Playing a winning position is like eating an ice cream. If you eat it too fast, you're not going to feel the pleasure of it. And if you eat it too slow, it's going to melt. So you have to find the perfect balance. Now with the move of c3, white's doing exactly that. He keeps the centralization, he keeps black's king defending, and now he even improves his rook that was just doing nothing. How cool is that? I mean, enjoy it. The winning position is not to win the game. You win the game, you go home, you forget about it. But having a winning position and feeling the power and the domination over the opponent, it reminds me of Bobby Fischer, who said, I love the moment when I break my opponent's ego. Yeah, it feels good. It doesn't sound right, but it feels good. And so that's the idea. We have rook b6, and then, of course, if black captures on e4, there's actually, I just saw this combination of rook e6, which I think is exactly what Shirov wanted, attacking both bishops. Then essentially, if black moves along, there's rook takes d7, there's queen takes f6, and I think that's pretty much it. Really, just everything is hanging. I don't see any defense coming from his position. So yeah, chess is a marathon. Well, depends on the position. That's all I'm going to tell you. Sometimes you got to go slow and it will be fast. Sometimes if you hurt, if you hurt a little too much, it's going to be actually a bit slow. Yeah, so relative. Anyway, after rook b6, black sacrificed in d4, captures, takes. He just didn't want to stand this position. And often that's what happens. When you have a winning position and he rushes it, you just enjoy it. Pick up the fruits of all your work and you do it risk-free. What easier possibility than that? Now, both bishops are attacked. I think I showed you what happens in case he takes here. There's just too much that he has to handle, and he can't handle it. For obvious reasons, he's rook down, and there's rook takes a6 and more coming. So, yeah, actually after rook e1, black played f5, and then there was queen e5 check, attacking the bishop, and black has to move it. But then the white perfect piece command is helping him to make the sacrifice, which black resigned after, because after rook takes f6, there is this check. The bishop's controlling the squares. I'm just going to show you. So wherever the king goes, we win. And what I find really incredible is that this game, from start to finish, really utilizes all these principles. Like if we go back to it, I'm just going to go right back to it from the very beginning. Like the active development that white made, the fact that he looked at all these nice forcing and preparatory moves so he could figure out the timing. Sometimes when there was a forcing move and that was right, that was going to achieve something, he did it. But in most times, it was just about preparation and keeping a strong position instead, like having the idea to play a3 and king h1 and rook e1 and really getting ready, not sacrificing, but really building that momentum until the right time comes. And then also you're giving the opportunity. Now, that's the biggest thing that I've learned. I mean, once again, I want to tell you, I'm very impressed. This bundle that you're offered for just 50%, the scout, it actually suggests a lot of these ideas. But one of the things that I loved a lot about it is that it brings to the idea that in most times when we are attacking, we have to pick up on the quiet moves, because when you do so, you get the chance to let your opponent make the mistake. At least that's one of the things that comes to my mind as, what I was able to learn there. You let your opponent to mess it up. If you push it, you could make a mistake yourself. But if you keep strengthening, your opponent is going to get frustrated because he sees how you walk forward and he keeps going backward. And so they'll try something like black tried. I mean, keep in mind, it was Grandmaster Joel Benjamin who played this game as black. We're talking about one of the best grandmasters in USA and one of the best grandmasters in the world, actually. So he got impatient and took the f4 thinking everything's right, but it wasn't. So imagine how it will affect an intermediate or a beginner level player. They'll do a lot more mistakes. So it will be much easier for you to pick up the fruits. That's my expression, by the way, and then just punish them. That was it. So I hope that you like this game as much as I did. Now, okay, I want to bring up another one that's from the same package. So just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna get it opened. By the way, while I'm doing that, I'm trying to figure out the softer thing here. Just to tell you once again, click on the box below the stream and you get a massive 50% of the 6 volumes on the tactic and the sacrifices and domination bundle. It teaches you all the little shorts that Grandmaster used to calculate accurately and attack. And, there's A lot of cool combinations and typical patterns you can use in your own game. So check that out. I highly recommend it. Now, on another hand, let me show you one of these examples that I got most impressed of. So just wait on for a second. I'm going to clear the board in the meantime. Okay. And this one is pretty cute. Okay. Give me a moment. So what we're going to be talking about right now is another lecture. I was able to learn one major thing of the whole bundle: how to punish our opponent. Now, that may sound like a strange thing for me to say, but let me clarify what I mean. Punishing your opponent has one main goal: make your opponent pay for whatever mistakes he did in the opening or in the middle game that put him in the wrong position. Now, a lot of people are wondering, how do we do that? Well, this game is going to show you how. So let's go. There's c4, knight f6, d4, e6. And as that happened, white plays knight c3. So basically, black plays bishop b4. Now, this is the Nimzo. Now, the Nimzo Indian. And, okay. So one of you just asked a question. Can you please tell us which numbered DVDs from the Empire are in the Tactics and Domination bundle? Well, all of them. I've had a chance to look at all of them, and I was very impressed. Obviously they were sending me so that they can review them and just see what I think. But I love those, as a matter of fact, and not how many, but which ones. Some of us may already have purchased some of them. Well, I don't know which one because I don't have the list right in front of me, but if you get it, you will have actually 50% of all of them. And then, the great thing is it just has a lot of interesting and instructive information in there. I wouldn't be advising you that if I knew that it was something else. Like, it's basically, I think at all of them. I don't know which ones you want to get essentially, but it's a bundle. That's why it's a bundle. So it's all of them. You get it at 50% discount, and you can really learn slowly. Now, I'm going to give you one advice. If you're studying through those videos, now do it like me. You know what I did? Okay, obviously, most of you do. Just take the TV and start it and study, but that's not the way. What I love doing is I take my pen and my score sheet, and what I love is I write down highlight points. Like, say, okay, I write down, let's say, minute 14, second 31. Okay, so there's the first highlight. Okay, then there is like minute 18, 21. So when I do that, okay, from the Grandmaster lecture, then I listen to the lecture. I try to learn and understand as much as possible. And then what I do is that I go right back, and then I actually want to write down specific notes. Now, I do it in the following method. This works really well for almost every lesson from that bundle, and for other, like lectures as well, but specifically from that bundle. What I did is that I write down the concept. Like, for example, let's say the pressure is the most important thing for the attack, but not just this note. I write that note, and then I write down an explanation with my own words about what the Grandmaster wanted to say. Okay, so for example, if he said, keep the pressure when you're attacking, I write down the key thing is that I want to keep the pressure, because if I keep the pressure, I can maintain the good qualities of my position until I'm ready. And that also gives me more time to strengthen the position. So I can choose the right moment and the right time to break through. I write that down, and it really sinks in. It's like in school, it really sinks in what you're saying. Otherwise, if you just watch the video and you pass to the next one, you'll forget it. But if you write down the highlights, like specific minute and time, and then you go back and rewind those parts, essentially, you can write down these specific notes with your explanation on the concept, and there you go. That's how you learn it. And later on, you can rewind this video again on these key highlights, read through your notes, and understand what it's about. Okay, so use my method. I really love it, and that's why I recommend the whole bundle, not just one video or one it's a bundle. So this means it's prepared on different topics. Check it out. I love it. I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's go back to the game. There's a3, and then basically black exchanges with bishop takes to the c3, and then there's b takes to the c3. Now, that looks like a waste of time because black came there to double the pawns anyway, right? So why do we play a3? Well, the reason is because white's getting the bishop pair, and more importantly, because he'd like to bring him out. He can do bishop g5, knight f3, and other moves, so it all looks good. Knight c6 was met by f3, so white's preparing the move e4. And now black said, what the hell? I don't have to worry about e4. I mean, I can just carry on my development, and white's not prepared to attack me. And I'd like to talk about something really interesting. I've learned that too, but essentially, keep in mind, the key for any successful attack is the right skeleton. Yes, not the preparation, not the coordination, not the center. These are all good things, but it's the skeleton. That's how it starts. Now, let me explain to you what skeleton means. Skeleton is the ability for you to get a proper pawn structure and piece formation combined so that ultimately this pawn structure and piece formation have the prospects of beginning what we call as an attack or a successful plan. This means from the very early stage of the opening, we have to think about how would I project my pieces going on and developing so they can take my space. For instance, right now, black figured out, okay, I'll play bishop a6, knight a5, and probably c5, rook c8. It was a good projection. But if you think about white and you try to project the skeleton of his own development, you realize that white has the possibility to come forward with e4. Then actually we can find out is that there is the move of bishop to the d3, and then we have the ability to play knight e2. Now I just got the the video is getting blurry now. Okay, please let me know that everything is okay with the video. I keep a very good connection. I hope that the audio is fine too, but please do let me know. Okay, so I'm just gonna write on the chat is okay. Yeah, I'm gonna just write down with like a tiger. Is everything okay with the stream? Okay, let's see. Can you please confirm before I continue? Okay, is everything okay with the stream? Can you see? Can you hear? Blurry sometimes gets there. I don't know why. I'm sorry about that. It's probably not from me. It could be you too. Well, I don't know, really. But anyway, sound as video is perfect. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. I love that. So let's get back to the topic of skeleton. So what we're talking about is projection. Now this requires exercising, but I think it can help you a lot. Especially in the early stage of the game, you'd like to project of where you want to have your pieces, how do you want to get them there, and then basically we see e4, bishop d3, knight e2, while we see bishop a6, knight a5, c5, and rook c8 from black. Now, if you have a problem visualizing it, try harder. The idea is you would like to visualize those pieces staying there, and you want to ask yourself one very important question. Who has more possibilities? Now, in this case, we realize that white will have the center so he can advance with e5 and do some more attacks. Black, on the other hand, will help attack the pawn. So it's kind of difficult to assess who is better. And yet, think about it. White can attack the black knight. That will be eventually protecting a king if he castles. So the way I see it, the challenges against the black king could simply outweigh whatever pawn black may or may not get to take. So I guess it's worth taking on that opportunity. And I believe black misevaluated, considering you have the time to do this. Now, how do you know which skeleton is going to be good or bad? That's the question you're thinking about right now. I know it. Think about one thing. Project it, do whatever, but one idea is above all else. Activity. Activity in chess is who is more advanced. So this means if you believe your skeleton gives you advanced enough pieces, active pieces, then you're good. If your opponent doesn't, then he's not good. It's as simple as that. You know, I have a very weak student. I mean, she is around 1200 in real strength, and she has a rating of 16 to 1700. And a lot of people ask me, Valerie, how does she do that? And I tell them one thing. She applies activity. In every game, no matter how she plays, she tries to just bring the pieces forward from the very start. And that helps because she doesn't know how, but it gives her possibilities. And the opponents then don't do that. So try that idea. The skeleton, the preparation, Everything associates with activity, so be active. Check this out now. See what white does. Black moves bishop a6, then we have e5, bringing that knight down. It has to go down. Sure. And then what white plays is knight h3. This move seems to give the knight a lot better perspective than an e2 or any other square, so the knight's going to have f4 to h5 likely. So black plays knight a5. We have queen a4 protecting and setting up the queen advance. Yes, the pawn is weak. Sure, that's the price we have to pay. But on the other hand, the development works really well, and when the bishop comes out to h4, sorry, the g5, we got e7 pin, and yes, this is great. Like, the potential is great. So there's the first question that I have for you in this game. What do we do now after d5? What's the best way to follow? There's a shot against the c4. What's the way to go forward? Okay, now the c4, if it takes, then the bishop is hanging. We got the bishop of black that's challenging, and there's a lot to worry actually in this position, but I like to know what you'd think. So take a second and think about it. What is white supposed to do now? Take your time. Just don't rush and think carefully. Now, while you're thinking about it, let me tell you something. When you analyze a position, especially a tactical one, you might want to think about candidates. Now, this is something I'd like to talk a bit about right now, because candidates are everything. Candidates moves means to figure out the best candidate possibilities to help support your plan or keep you going, while at the same time, you figure out useful, strong, challenging moves to set problems over your opponent. So moves follow your plan, so you're consistent and set problems. They're not always there, but that's why you like to think about candidates. Like, what candidates do I have? Not one move, but a few. See, that's a very, very good thing. Well, let's see. Queen c2 is good. Queen c2 is good. I got that suggestion so many times. Let's talk about queen c2 then. Yeah, I see you like the move. No problem. After d5, we can play queen c2. And then what? What if black plays h6? You know, we can exchange. Sure. You take back. We take here. He takes back. We take here. He takes back. Fine. It's okay position. No, we're not losing. But then what's the real advantage? I think black is going to have a good game. Okay, maybe we can have f and e to advance too, but it's going to take a long time. So, not really. There's something better, something more efficient that white chose. Remember what I said. Candidate moves. Bishop e2 wouldn't help because black would just take the pawn. Short castling too, because he would just take the pawn. Exchange would only help him to take back with the queen and solidify the position, connecting his rooks. Not really. Nope. Think more. Think more. And while you're thinking, I'd like to say once again, very recently, I got the chance to use my special little system that I mentioned to you about studying videos, and I got to check this tactics and sacrificing domination bundle by a few different grandmasters. It's not just one GM. It's a few different grandmasters that put in a great effort in doing a fantastic job, providing some essential concepts to help us, to help me, at least that's how it worked for me, understand tactics a bit better. And even if I'm on an IM level and some of the things felt a little kind of basic, it just was so meaningful. Like, it had so much insight out there that because certain things in chess, they're basic, but they work on any level. So it's nice to see something so high quality, and you get a chance to basically have it. I mean, they made me a great offer. They said, okay, you make this webinar, and we'll give the opportunity for people because you liked it so much. People can basically get it at a 50% discount. And I'm telling you, people, you can check the link below the box. It's a great product. So anyway, let's talk about the game back. Does anybody have a suggestion on what white should do now? Queen b4, it's okay. Black would just take the c4 though. It doesn't work. Take an h7. Well, you would love to do that, wouldn't you? I'd think about this as a pretty good idea, but then again, we got to check and then reruns. So that's not cool. No. So let's remember what I told you a bit before. I mean, I told you that we've got to be thinking about, what was it? Center. Oh, yeah. Center was great. I mean, we have the center. We need to have a good skeleton. Oh, we do. Because we're more active than our opponent. And do you know what I learned from one of the GM lectures? I'm going to just share with you my experience because mostly today I just rehearsed, like, let's do rehashing and things that I've learned. I'm just so impressed. So one of the things that I learned, and it just made more powerful impression for me than anything else. There were a lot of good content out there, but what I learned is that the only way to continue an attack is if you can coordinate your pieces and you keep improving your coordination by setting other pieces to connect with each other. Now think about it. What is White missing here? He's missing the development, but not so much. Every single one of the white pieces is not working with each other. If you think about it, the pieces that are working are the knight and the bishop. So they're supporting, but really that doesn't mean much. The queen being the strongest piece is not working with any other. The rooks are being on their backsides. So surely we want to change that, but how do we do it fast enough? Come on. Bishop f6, knight f2, let's talk about them. Bishop f6, how would it make a difference? Black would just do bishop takes to the c4. It does not work. Knight f4 will be met by the same kind of thing. Knight in the rim is not a good thing, but we have no time. You know, he's going to take that pawn. Queen b4, castles. Can you return a few moves back? Sure. I think that white didn't do anything wrong. See, sometimes when I play a practical game and I tell myself I'm in trouble, but I don't know how I got here. It just doesn't sound right that I have such a good position. I made all the right moves and I got myself in trouble. And then I remember this advice by the grandmaster who said, think about what you're missing, what you don't have. Right now, we're missing coordination. And especially that coordination of the queen with some other piece. So there you go. Good job, Adrian. This is the bishop b1 we do. With the idea of queen c2, we set the queen and the bishops together so that they all have the power, not just to pin him down, but also challenge him, as they should. And there we go. We get the coordination. Don't castle, move the king up. We got no time for that. Black's got a threat, okay? We have to act fast. And that's actually pretty impressive in this position because in reality, that's what white did. In fact, black even tried to avoid it by playing h6 first and then doing d5, but that's the same sort of situation. White plays bishop to the b1, and now we see how dangerous that's going to be. I mean, the reality of the situation is if black plays this, okay, maybe the dark squares are not going to be as weak right now, but then we have queen d2, we have bishop f6, and I mean, okay, black won a pawn. Who cares? I mean, who really cares that he won a pawn? White's going for the checkmate right now. It's just painful. So the reality of the situation is that black is in trouble here. So yeah, there's not much. I mean, after bishop b1, black tried g5, pushing the bishop down. Then he moved his knight along the g6 square. And then I'm going to ask you what you would do. So queen b4 intensifies the pressure. Let me get back for a second so I can answer that question. Does that intensify the pressure? Yes, it does. But it also gives black a chance to plan for c5 or knight c6. So maybe this knight can come down to c6. I don't think it's so easy, you know. So anyway, white figured out the right idea. Just play bishop b1. And, okay, so actually when black played h6 here, d5, bishop b1, queen c2. And actually, did that happen in the game? No, of course not. Black plays g5, queen c2, and knight g6. So that's where we are at. So blocks it. You know, when I first saw that position, I was like, okay, this looked good, but what now? See, this seems like a dead end. There is an attack on the bishop, our queen, and everything's blocked. Why play h6? Well, he did that so that he can have g5. You see, he can do g5, and now it seems like white has to retreat his bishop, after which the attack seems to be gone. Black can confidently take the c4 pawn. He can get on to b3, and he's pretty good. Don't know if that's going to stay like this, but he is doing a good job here. And then I got the right idea. Oh, yeah. So, anyone? Now, how to reduce blunders? Okay, that's an interesting thing. Another important thing is that this bundle I was talking to you about, the tactic and sacrifices one, it has some very specific tips and system about reducing blunder. And I'm going to share a few of these after we look at that game. But just to remind you, if you click on the link below, I believe it is, you can get all the, like the 6th volume on tactics and sacrifices with this methodology about attacking, avoiding blunders, as you said, for 50% off. And this is during the time of this webinar. So check that out. Now, how do we avoid blunders? Well, what I was able to learn from the Grandmaster's advice is that to avoid blunders, we have to learn to check. This means the more consistently we check for unprotected pieces and possible weaknesses in our position, the more we can get in the habit of noticing these things in our games. So that's pretty much the way I learned it, okay? I'm just telling you my observation. So this is something useful, I hope. At least it was useful for me. So what do we do? Knight f2 or queen c1 or knight f4? Knight f4. Hey, there you go. Thank you, guys. This is it. We use the pin on g5. You can't take that knight because of the checkmate. And we got g6, h7, g8, and everything else cut down. So it's a really big move. But you see, it's only possible because of the circumstances. See, if you look at the games of Tal, you see a lot of moves like this, but people look at the highlights, the end of the Tal's games. Most of Tal's games is preparation and build-up, gaining the momentum so these moves become possible. There you go. Knight f4. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant. And black is really not good here. I mean, like after g takes h, there's knight takes g6. If he plays knight takes f, I want to show the checkmate. It just looks pretty cool, so I can't, not take it. And then, okay, if black plays g takes h, knight takes g6, it feels bad. If he plays this, if he takes here, it's queen. Just the more I look at this position, the more cool it becomes because it's very unexpected move. Anyway, he had to take. I mean, that's probably the least evil. And then this next move is really awesome. And obviously, black couldn't take the knight because of the checkmate. Check and checkmate. But then the white plays knight h8, and he has the bishop and the queen and the checkmate, and the knight out there, the knight in the corner. It's an incredible move, which shows how good it is to coordinate. I mean, I know that I've been telling a lot about coordinate, but you see, this lecture is not like a lecture so much about attacking. It's just sharing my experience, what I was able to learn from these great grandmasters that were teaching me how to think, and that's it. This is basically a good idea. So knight h8 sets up for the queen h8 checkmate, and it's only possible because of the coordination. I'll never forget seeing this position for the first time. It was so powerful. Queen h7 is working out greatly, and we got king h8, sorry, king f8, and okay, here we go. Got another question for you. We got a nice knight. It's awesome, really awesome, like so awesome. But then, what do we do now? You've ever been in a position in which you felt like you did everything right and you still can't figure out a way to finish him off? Like you feel like this is the time. I gotta do something. And you can't. For whatever reason, you can't. Just you start scratching your head, you start, thinking, and your time goes out, and your opponent is just, he's staying and he's hoping that maybe you'll end his misery, I guess. Or maybe not. He's too relaxed because he sees you're not confident enough. So what do we do? Okay, what do we do? And that's what the mistake of most chess players, okay? They ask themselves, what do I want to do? How do I do it? How do I finish him? And that's the wrong question. You see, to get good at chess, you have to be good. You have to get better at asking the right questions. You have to get the habit of asking the right questions. The right question is, what are we missing? Not so much what we need or so much what we want. What are we missing? What's not there? Well, actually, what we need is the right equivalent to what we're missing. So I guess what we need. What isn't there? The queen? Not really. The queen is there. The black king is going to go out. The knight is there too. The bishop's there too. What we're missing is not pieces. We're not missing the target. It's there. What we're missing are open lines. Come on. The successful attack is made out of two things. Well, three to be exact. We need a good target. The king is there. We need good pieces. The pieces are there. We need open lines. And they're not there. I mean, not enough of them. So you know what? White figured out a way to do f4. So very good. Nalton suggested and Jose Leon suggested the move of f4, and I love this. This is great. So well done, guys, of finding this move. It's a move that most people would never even come close to finding, because if you don't ask yourself the right question, you'll hardly see an idea of a pawn move while you have your queen and the knight directly rolling in front of the opponent's king. It's a move that just really strikes on how important it is to ask yourself the right questions. That's something that this little bundle that you can get at 50% discount was able to teach me. Ask myself the right questions at the right time when I'm attacking. It's pretty cool. I mean, it was a great experience. So anyway, f4 and f5 is what happens. Then there was edicts f, and then there was like a short castle. So white basically brings the last piece into the battle. The rook is getting in. So black had to do bishop c8. Well, you may be wondering, why didn't he play knight e3? And I'll just ask, what does that move really change? Because the knight will have to move, then the pawn falls. So he moved the bishop right down, and then white just took on f5. Takes. Now the game is basically over. I mean, it was over for a while, but white had to find all these little quality, careful, precise moves so he can keep up the attack. And now, obviously, there's knight g6 as a threat. Black's only ways to run. But then this pawn falls, and he's just running. I mean, okay, come on, run. Let's keep running. But you know, the problem is the more he runs, the more vulnerable it gets, because the safest position is if the king is castled or moved around the castling. In the center, it becomes just a bigger target. So we have e6, and then he's finished, like really finished. If the king comes out here, we got takes, check, and then the queen falls. If he doesn't, well, I guess the rook falls. He chose to lose the rook, and yet white finished him brilliantly. Now I'm going to share with you one more little secret out of what I learned from the Grandmaster lectures. Forcing moves. Yes, the first and highest priority I'd like to consider is basically setting up forcing moves. Take a look at that check. If the king comes back, then there's we have queen f7 and a checkmate, or even worse, did I really say just worse than a checkmate? I did, sorry. Anyway, we got e7, or we got the move of queen to the d7, and then the idea of e7. Actually, when I think about it, it's worse than a checkmate, you know, because checkmate just makes you go home and relax and forget about it. But being in this position doesn't. So after rook takes to the c7, white really finished it for black. So this ends the game. I mean, again, black is just a walking dead, and I like that show, by the way. It's just that he is right now a walking dead, and white's just waiting for a way to finish him. So there's queen e7, there's a5, and there's like queen d7. And you know what? Once again, the question, what am I missing? The rook is there, the queen is up, the black king is right where it belongs, so we can checkmate him. His pieces are terrible. We have a pass pawn, and one quickly, what we're missing. Oh, I guess we figured it out. The rook is up there, and it's missing. So we bring it in. Now, queen b5 is a checkmate, but that's just one of the ideas. The other is pretty clear, too. So, I mean, I can't tell you how impressed I was with this game when I first saw it. It was really a beautiful way of seeing how an attack works. It's just all of these moves, like a skeleton that white was able to build and the importance of how that helps, then the idea of being more active, the concept of thinking of piece coordination no matter what the position is, actually, you see, like just how white was able to do this whole thing with the queen and the bishop, and more importantly, trying to figure out, okay, what am I missing? Like in the position where basically black played along g5 in this. So white was thinking, okay, what am I missing? I have my attack, I have my pieces, my knight and my queen. I need more open lines. It was really beautiful to see. It was played between Alexander Koto versus Paul Keres in the Candidates Tournament in Budapest. So it was one of the most beautiful attacks I've ever seen, and I hope you guys liked it as much as I did and I was able to learn from it. So yeah, I would like to thank you guys for joining me. Just don't forget about the fantastic offer that the great guys from iChess.net are setting up. 50% off the 6 volume on tactics and sacrifices domination bundle. It will teach you all the little nitpicks that grandmasters use to calculate and attack, plus give you ton of cool sacrifices and games like this that you can use in your own games. So check that out. And of course, if you want to ask me anything about those about those games or certain methods about studying or whatever, you can do it now. I'm going to be online for a couple minutes, so just ask me, or you can actually check my website, which is tigerlilov.com, and send me a message from that. I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, one of you just said, can you please summarize the important points in a few sentences in the end? Well, there's so many. I can't, but I'm going to tell you one thing. When you are attacking, okay, there's so much to look for. Coordination, activity, center, good skeleton. What am I missing? But don't forget the most important thing. You need to calculate less and think more about the ideas of the position. You see, people make mistakes because they calculate too much. If you stop thinking about calculation and you try to figure out what ideas are playing an important role in a given position, that's what will help out a lot. This is what really helps. And at least that's what I've learned as the most important thing from this bundle, so check it out. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I really love your cooperation and the participation in the lecture. If you have any other questions, let me know, or visit my website, or actually you can send me an email if you want, which is, my email is valeri.lilov@gmail.com. I love hearing from anyone on questions, suggestions, future topics, or whatever you want me to bring up on YouTube or on any other platform I'm on. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.